Molson Canadian 200, presented by Castrol XLR Motor Oil. Today at Cayuga International Speedway, deep in southern Ontario's farmlands, 32 American Speed Association and Canadian late model stock car drivers will go nose to tail for 200 laps, $95,000, and the Molson Canadian Trophy. Hello, everybody. I'm Bill Inkol. Welcome to Canada's fastest 5/8-mile paved oval. 1985 was a very explosive year in oval track racing. Explosive because of the dominance of Thunderbirds, not only in this ASA series, but also in NASCAR. It was a case of the Thunderbird really taking it to the Camaro, the Firebird, and the Daytona. Now, the obvious question is why? Last year's Molson 200 winner, Alan Kulwicki, was one of the drivers who switched from GM to Ford, and Gary Poindexter asked them the reason why.
Alan, why did you switch to Ford this year, and why is the Ford doing so well for you?
As far as the car running well, the chassis is basically very similar to what I had last year. It's a Hanley chassis, and it has been handling pretty well. The engines have made good power. I think the engines are as good or maybe a little better on the top end on a long track. Off the corners, the Chevrolet seem to be just as good, but I think the Fords are fast in ASA for a different reason than they're fast in NASCAR. I think in NASCAR, T-Bird may be a more aerodynamic body style than a Monte Carlo, but in ASA, we're not racing them against Monte Carlos. We're running them against Camaros and Firebirds, so I don't think our edge is aerodynamic. I think part of it may lay in the engines, and also that 100-pound weight brake helps a little bit.
The proof of any new design is when the rubber hits the road, and during the hot laps to see who'd be in the front row for this 200-lapper, Dick Trickle, the White Knight, and the man who blew away the track record here at Cayuga last year, was first up with his prototype Pontiac. This hard charger has not won a race so far in '85, but is currently in third place in ASA points. He really put the pedal to the metal and shaved more off his current record with a 19.443 best, putting his GM car on top. Then it was Michigan's Butch Miller's turn to try out his new Pontiac Firebird. It didn't take long for Butch to get it all together as he slammed the V8 around in another new record-breaking time of 19.436. Quite frankly, it looked like these two Firebirds would lead off this Cayuga 200-lap classic until number 28, Special K, Alan Kulwicki driving, as you heard in the interview, a 1985 Ford Thunderbird had his turn. Alan's first hot lap was good, but not good enough. Then he got it all hooked up and literally blew away the competition with a 19.409 second lap, averaging 115.926 miles per hour. Alan Kulwicki had won the Battle of the Birds, much to the delight of this 20,000-plus crowd. Now, the only thing left to see is if Kulwicki can make it 2 Molson Canadian 200 wins in a row. Coming up, the start of the Molson Canadian 200, brought to you by Castrol XLR. In 200, presented by Castrol XLR Motor Oils. The 30 starters are ready to go, and here's Brian Vachon with the words they've been waiting for.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great day for racing and for the start of the Molson Canadian 200. Gentlemen, let's go racing.
Looks like Butch Miller in the 52 car is having problems already. They're having to push start his car. Well, here's the lineup with Kulwicki, last year's champion, on the pole. Miller, Trickle, probably the winningest driver in North America. Valcott, who's driving a Chrysler Daytona. Martin, Eddie, Seneca, who's been a champion here several times. And Harold Fair. On row 5 is Sauter, who's the defending 300 champion. Stauffer, Harrington, Strait, Evans, Lund. Top Canadian Russ Erlin and Dennis Vogel. And you know, Gary Poindexter, Russ Erlin from London, Ontario, is leading this ASA series for the Rookie of the Year. Not a bad accomplishment.
Yes, he's doing very well, Bill. But the amazing part is that the second-place rookie is also a Canadian. He's Bill Stevenson from Richmond Hill. He's in row 10. Both these drivers haven't won a race so far, but they're constantly over the 90% mark in completed laps per race.
Well, they've proven that they can go the distance with these veterans. Veterans like Dick Trickle. He's the 1984 National ASA champion in car number 99. Well, we're just about ready to go. We pick up the pace car leading these 30 starters, about to pull off as we get ready for 200 high-speed laps. The place to be is just where Alan Kulwicki is, on the inside front row with no one ahead.
Well, you're right, Bill. The top groove where Butch Miller is just a little dusty. It could give these drivers some trouble this afternoon. They're preparing for the start with Alan Kowicki on the inside in car number 28. They come down, and we get the green flag, and the race is underway. And Alan Kowicki powers the Hardy Ford Thunderbird into the lead into turn number 1. And it's Dick Trickle in car number 99 and Butch Miller side by side. As they come into the turn, it's Miller now solidly in second in car number 52 out of Lawton, Michigan, with Dick Trickle, the White Knight from Wisconsin Rapids, Wisconsin, right behind him.
Well, there's the race order. Kowicki, Miller, Trickle, Malcutt, Martin, Eddy, and Fair. So the Ford Thunderbird is showing the GMs and Chryslers the way this afternoon. But I'm impressed with number 70, Malcutt, in his Daytona. Evidently, he's had problem with the car's handling in previous races.
Well, there's certainly a great race developing between he and car number 70 and Mark Martin in car number 2, the Ford Thunderbird, right behind him. Mark has had some handling problems, but that engine is extremely strong as he apparently is pulling away from Mark Martin on the straight. Kowicki still in the lead. It's Butch Miller in car number 52 in the Pontiac Firebird in second position. And it's still Dick Trickle in another Pontiac Firebird in third in car number 99. The Ford leads it, but it's 2 Pontiac Firebirds in second and third.
This race may be young, but those fans are enjoying it. It appears that these drivers are reluctant to go high on the corners. I talked earlier to second-place Butch Miller about the second groove, and this is what Butch had to tell me.
They had a last practice session after qualifying yesterday, and I went out there just to test the second groove. I went up there, and it's almost like it's a fine grid out there. And when you go into it, sometimes the front end wants to go straight at the wall, and sometimes the back end tries to pass the front end. You just really don't know what's going to happen, and consequently end up slowing down about a second. And this track, you carry so much speed down the straightaways that when you enter the corner, you want all the racetrack you can use, and you can't afford to put 1 foot into that dirty part of the track.
Now, there's a man that's got his foot in it. Mark Martin is really shadowing number 70, Malcutt, with number 88, Mike Eddy, waiting patiently in 6th spot. It looks like Malcutt is holding Martin up.
Well, Mark's right on the back bumper of that Dodge Daytona of Mark Malcutt. He's on the inside now as he tries to get around him. But down the front,
look at that.
There's a big Christ Mark Malcutt right in the middle of it. Where's Martin? There's Bob Sineker. Mike Eddy in car number 88. There's Harold Fair in car number 81. Jim Sauter's backwards. Look at Bob straight, threading the needle, snaking his way through. I don't even think he touched anybody. There's a lot of damage down there, and it appeared as though it started with Mark Malcutt in car number 70.
Look at Mark Malcutt. He looks pretty much relaxed. He's just sitting there with a toothpick in his mouth, watching the world go by at about 100 miles an hour. Looks like he's through for the day, though. Yeah, there goes the steering wheel. He's going to hand it over.
There's Jim Sauter into the pits for some repairs. Let's take a look at this accident in slow motion. There's Mark Malcutt in car number 7. You can see the smoke from the car, indicating that the engine, in fact, did let go. There's Mark Martin coming on the inside. He's sliding in the oil. Mike Eddy, just with no place to go, he's completely backwards on track. The black car, number 81 on the outside, is Harold Fair. He makes contacts with the right front of Malcutt's car. A lot of damage to his left front. Look at Bob Sineker sliding narrowly through there. He makes it through. I don't think he touched anybody, but Jim Sauter on the outside crams into the back end of Harold Fair's car, and a lot of damage to Jim Sauter in car number 5. And a multi-car accident early in this race, and apparently some of these cars may not get back in.
Gary, the track is clear now. They're ready to restart the Molson Canadian 200 minus Mark Malcutt.
Well, Alan Kowicki is still in the lead. Oh, he almost went to the outside. Those marbles are out there. He's got to be careful. Car number 28, Alan Kowicki, the defending champion of the Molson Canadian 200, in the lead. But there's Butch Miller right on his back bumper, as he has been throughout this race. Miller running very strong.
Here's how the drivers are placed, with the pole sitter Alan Kowicki still in the lead, followed by Miller, Trickle, Martin, Straight, Stauffer, and in 7th, ex-football professional Tom Harrington.
Alan Kowicki still in the lead in the Hardy's Ford Thunderbird, car number 28, with Butch Miller right behind him in car number 52. And these cars and drivers have been going at it all year long.
Look at the outside of number 88, Eddy's car. He really took a beating in that collision with Malcutt. Earlier, I had a chance to ask number 99, third-place Dick Trickle, what his strategy would be this afternoon.
And it's a 200-lapper, so there ain't going to be much strategy involved. It's going to be pretty well hammered down, because the top 10, 12 cars here are so competitive that if you don't run hard all day, you'll get out of the lead group, and you might get in trouble. But The main thing is to try to stay with the leaders all day, hopefully lead a few laps and be right there at the end.
Well, there's somebody that wants to be right there at the end. It's Canadian Junior Hanley in the orange number 72, the Hanley Enterprises Ford. He's currently ahead of Bobby Dotter in the Firebird.
Well, Junior's doing a very good job this afternoon. Uh-oh, there's trouble in turn number 1 and a fire. That's Bob Sineker in car number 84. The rear of his car is on fire. The front of Johnny Cadman's number 71 is on fire. 2 more cars involved in this accident. And that, I believe, is race leader Alan Kowicki slowly going through down to bottom of the track in car number 28. Look at Sineker's car. A lot of damage to the left front. Johnny Cadman's out. He's okay.
And it looks like Cadman's is finished with this race. The Cayuga track crew got that fire under control quickly, didn't they?
They certainly did. And Butch Miller in the pits in car number 52. As he comes in for a pit stop, he's running in second position, been chasing Alan Kowicki all afternoon long. They go to the left side of that car, jacking it up to change that left side rubber and put on those new Goodyear tires. Go to work quickly now with the air wrenches to change those tires. They drop it back down. Butch is ready to go, but they're not quite done with the left front of that car. And there's Dick Trickle right behind him in car number 99 as he was running in third position. They're changing the right side, and it appears also as they're changing the right side of Butch Miller's car. So they're going to take on 4 new tires, taking on a load of fuel. They're going to go back. They're going to get real serious about that. As Butch pulls away, Dick right behind him, both of them very quick, expert pit stops.
Well, that pit stop has changed the look of this race with Kowicki still leading, Martin in another T-Bird second, and Oakville's Junior Hanley in 9th spot. We'll be back with more of the Molson Canadian 200 presented by Castrol XLR Motor Oils in a moment. Canadian 200 presented by Castrol XLR Motor Oils. And have we got a great race here at Cayuga International Speedway. These 4 drivers, led by Alan Kowicki in the Ford Thunderbird, are locked nose to tail like a train, each one waiting for the other to make the slightest driving error. Gary Poindexter, it's also a very interesting car manufacturer's battle.
It's truly a battle of the birds.
There are the standings with Alan Kowicki still in front, followed by Martin, Miller, Trickle, Jim Sauter, Bob Strait, Dotter, and possibly the most popular man in this area, Canadian Junior Hanley, driving another T-Bird.
There's Hanley now, just ahead of Mike Eddy in the damaged bright green number 88. He's changed his team colors for this year.
Uh-oh, there's a spin on corner 2. The yellow flag is out, and it looks like number 93, Ed Evans from Wisconsin. So that means the crews will be coming in.
And look at this. Leader Alan Kowicki has come in to give up that lead. You know, they have to make a mandatory pit stop in this race, Bill.
Time is of the essence here. If this crew can change 4 tires quickly, then he'll be able to resume his front row position, or at least close to the front. And they're working feverishly, as you can see. One side done, now they pop over the other side.
Well, the right side went very well. Now they have to get on this left side very quickly to get done and get back out and hold that lead.
Well, look at the guy at the back. He's having some problems. He can't get it on. The wheel on, can he?
Well, I'm not sure. The left front is done. The guy in the back, yeah, he's having a lot of problems. I'm not sure what the problem is, though.
Hey, listen, I counted 2 nuts going on that rear wheel. That could make for a dangerous wobbly ride for Alan Kowicki, who's now at the back of the pack. The question is, can he make it back into contention? And there's the race order with our new leader, Mark Martin, in the number 2 Ford. He is currently 5th in the ASA point standings, aided by a big win at Kalamazoo, Michigan recently.
You know, the big question right now, Bill, is the fact that Alan Kowicki made a very late pit stop. Now, this could work for him or against him in the latter stages of this race because Alan's way back in the back of the pack now. Mark Martin has taken over the lead, followed by Butch Miller, and then it's Dick Trickle, 1, 2, and 3. It's a good race there, but back in the back, Alan's got a lot of real estate to eat up between he and the leader, Mark Martin, to try to come back up there and challenge. So we'll be watching for the Hardee's Thunderbird of Kowicki coming through.
Well, there's Alan Kowicki in the number 28 car. He is picking his way through the field already. I guess those new tires must really help. He's right behind Junior Hanley in the orange number 72. Junior told me earlier that his racing career may soon be ending.
I figure on stopping racing about another year, maybe even this year. We're so busy at the shop, we don't get time to work on our cars, and we ain't running as good as we used to because we never get to race anymore. And so we're either going to quit or racing or start racing. And we'll probably quit racing and just start building cars.
It will be a sad day indeed for Canadian Oval Track fans when Junior makes that decision. Not so sad as Kowicki's move past Junior. Boy, has he ever got the burners turned up.
Well, he certainly has, Bill, and as I indicated earlier, he's going to have to. But look at turn number 1. It's Bob Strait in car number 14. That's the G.W. Pierce automobile. He's got problems. He's hit the outside retaining wall, and that's really...
That's it for him. It looks like the front left wheel has been damaged, and I fear Straight's race has ended.
Well, Dick Trickle's in now. They go to work on the right side of his car. Jacked up, the right front now is off, and now there's Mike Eddy in car number 88.
Mike Eddy in Howe Enterprises Pontiac. Mike has not had a very good start to this 1985 ASA series, Gary.
Well, you know, sometimes that happens when you change teams between the seasons. The race continues with Mark Martin in the lead. Here comes Alan Kowicki on the inside as he passes Canadian Bill Stevenson.
Well, you know, Stevenson is a 28-year-old from the Richmond Hill area just outside of Toronto, and he often brings young people here from a Christian youth group. He's a pretty nice guy.
Well, Martin is still in the lead in car number 2, followed by, I believe, Butch Miller in car number 52, running very strong. Look at the damage on Jim Sauter's car. The left front damaged badly. There's Alan Kowicki coming through in car number 28. A lot of shuffling going on now in the race with the pit stops, and with Kowicki really mixing it up, as you can see on the inside, wheel-to-wheel racing as they go in the turn. And I just don't think that Sauter's just quite right. You can see he goes to the outside. He won the 300 here last year, but that car is just not sticking like it should. Kowicki gets around him rather easily, but
that pass by Kowicki puts him into third spot. This is an exceptional display of super driving when you consider that Alan came from last place because of that slow pit stop, Gary.
There's the new order, and I see that number 72, Junior Hanley, has moved up to 6th position. It's been a great battle all afternoon between Bobby Dotter and Junior.
Here's another war developing as Kowicki in number 28 passes Don Collins, number 4, who's a lap down, on his way to challenge Miller.
Well, Kowicki trying to get through that traffic. He is right behind Butch Miller now in car number 52, and the race is really closed up now. Alan with that late stop. A lot of people here in the tower were wondering, you know, he maybe should have gone in there when all the other cars did, but I think maybe Alan was smart. He's got fresher rubber on the car. The other cars now, you can see Mark Martin, just as he came out of the turn there, slipped a little bit, indicating that the tires are starting to wear on some of these other cars. We're going to have to watch Alan Kowicki because he certainly could be the man to beat this afternoon. Certainly the man that's up for it because of the win last year here in the Molson Canadian 200. Mark Martin has already had a win, and so has Alan in 1985.
It looks to me like Kowicki is not the least bit frightened to drive up in that second groove, and his car is able to turn into the corners without sliding around too much.
Well, you're right. Kowicki running a very strong race right on the back bumper of Butch Miller in car number 52. You know, a lot of things have happened to this track throughout the race, however. There's been a lot of blown engines. The cars have got hot. There's been water on the track. Lots of things happen.
Mark Martin, the leader here, talked to me about the importance of being out in front.
Well, we made a mistake qualifying yesterday, and we wound up in 5th place, starting 5th. So I'm going to be running hard from the start. We're planning on a pit stop somewhere soon after 100 laps. Hopefully our pit crew can get me out in front or close to the front, and from there it's going to be a dogfight to get to the lead, because, you know, I'd like to be leading by lap 130 or 40, because I feel if you can get the lead at that point, you know, if your car's working well, like we feel that we have our car working, that nobody's going to get around you.
Well, I don't think anybody has challenged Mark Martin yet. Miller in second place seems content to stay put, unlike number 28, Kowicki, who is knocking on the door.
Well, you're right, Bill. As a matter of fact, Kowicki has actually tapped Miller's bumper a few times, probably out of just pure frustration. Kowicki again closing in right on the back of Butch Miller. Certainly a very close race as this race continues for second spot.
The race order is Martin, Miller, Kowicki, Sauter, and Trickle. And we'll be back with more of the Molson Canadian 200 presented by Castrol XLR Motor 200 presented by Castrol XLR Motor Oils from Cayuga Speedway. And the cars are just about ready to restart after a yellow caution flag incident. The pace car is off, and here's Gary Poindexter.
Mark Martin still in the lead. Butch Miller running in second position. Alan Kowicki runs third, and Jim Sauter runs fourth as the green flag comes out, and once again, the Molson Canadian 200 resumes. Kowicki on the inside of Butch Miller challenging for second as they come through the turn, and it's Kowicki back up. Look at Jim Sauter. He hit the outside retaining wall. A bad day for Sauter. He was running in fourth, Bill, as that happened.
I think there was some sand and oil right at that particular spot, and that's why he slid into the retaining wall.
Well, you're probably right, but he certainly had a bad day.
The new race orders, we near the finish of this Molson Canadian 200 is Mark Martin and the T-Bird first, Alan Kulwicki and another Ford second, followed by Butch Miller, Dick Trickle, and Jim Sauter, all in Pontiac Firebirds. And it looks as though Dick Trickle is moving up on Butch Miller to challenge for that third spot, while Kulwicki tries to figure a way around a very cool Mark Martin. Maybe it's Martin's NASCAR experience that gives him so much poise.
Well, Mark is certainly cool, but Alan Kulwicki is cool also, as he proved winning the second outing at Georgia International Speedway earlier this year. And by the way, he did that after he flipped on a practice session on a Friday before the race. So Alan is right on the back bumper of Mark Martin. And I'll tell you what, if you look in the rearview mirror of Mark Martin's car right now, all you could see would be orange and white of a Hardee's Ford Thunderbird. This is certainly the point where the pressure really comes on.
Hey, look at this. This is what Alan Kulwicki needs, some encouragement from a crew member. That's pretty effective body language.
Well, the Hardee's crew is certainly enthusiastic. Mark Martin trying to hold back Alan Kulwicki. Butch Miller now being passed by Dick Trickle. You know, Miller may be having some problems. Kulwicki had just gotten around him. Now Dick Trickle has taken over third. Mark Martin still in the lead, followed by Kulwicki. Trickle running third. 1, 2, 3. They come down, and look at this battle. Junior Hanley still in there with Bobby Dotter in car number 79.
There's very little distance at over 140 miles an hour in the back straight between Martin, Kulwicki, and Trickle as we come up to the white flag and the last lap.
And what a last lap it's going to be. Alan Kulwicki goes to the inside to get around Martin, but he slips on the dirt on the inside of the race course. You know, I think that hurt him, Bill. You can see a lot of more distance between he and Mark Martin. Down the backstretch, Alan trying to go the inside. He looks to the inside of Martin. He can't get in there. He holds behind him, Trickle watching for him to make a slip. Here they come down, and the winner, Mark Martin, followed by Alan Kulwicki and Dick Trickle in third position.
Hey, there's a happy bunch of guys. Mark Martin's pit crew. This is Martin's second win this year in the American Speed Association Series, and there are the final results, Gary.
You're right, Bill, and this is the second one for Mark, and last year, the whole season, he only won one. Kulwicki finished in second, and Dick Trickle finished third. You know, it was a great race. Any one of 5 or 6 drivers could have won this race this afternoon, and Mark Martin becomes the first driver in 1985 to win 2 events. And now down to Bill Inkol and a very happy race winner.
Were you surprised when Kulwicki did not pit with the rest of you leaders?
Yeah, I was surprised. I didn't know, couldn't figure what his strategy would be there. I was afraid it was a mistake, and I was almost wrong. He was right there all over me. It was just one of those things after the caution. I wanted to make sure I was careful that I didn't make a mistake, and he had, you know, he was on a roll. He had come from way behind, and so, you know, I had to stay conservative.
Mark Martin.